All right, replay review time. Let's take a look. This is going to be Winston all the way through on Watchpoint Gibraltar. At the time of form, this was Diamond. I imagine it's probably around the same case. Okay, I hope to get actionable feedback regarding my performance to help identify what aspects of my game I should focus on improving. Love to hear it. Playing around 4 different tanks. Maybe that's changed since the form. Obviously, whenever we look at goals here, if your goal is to hit Masters and be consistently Masters, I would recommend you compressing that hero pool. Now, you might be saying, well, I only pick those characters in certain niches, and that's fine. That's totally fair. But just you really don't want to be spreading yourself too thin. I would say in general, 2 tanks is going to be your sweet spot if you're playing an hour or 2 a day, which seems to be where you're at most of the time. And then having tanks that either complement each other or tanks that you just enjoy playing so much that you're willing to flex and fill and make them work anyway. I mean, you can win games at Diamond on Winston, on Circuit Royale, and a Bastion. I've done it. It's possible. If you want it to happen, you can absolutely make it happen. You just have to be willing to really understand what makes the character unique, utilize flanks, be really strong with your mechanics, be really strong at understanding how to bait and play around attention. But obviously for you, it's like you put Ramatra in second place, and well, there's a great tank for Circuit Royale in most circumstances. So if you like flat tanks, if you like tall tanks, then you can have one of each depending on the situation. And you've got Ram, Drunken Queen, Sigma, so you can really choose whichever one that you enjoy the most and make them work in most situations where Winston doesn't feel all that great. Perks help too. Short-term goal, improve mechanics and become a better player. Okay, so we'll look at your specific mechanics. Mechanics with Winston there's a lot of mechanics. So first one is being able to land consistently on targets when you want to land on them. So characters without CC, characters without a lot of burst damage, characters that aren't paying attention. You just significantly improve your burst damage when you land on them. Being able to not land on targets that you don't want to land on top of. So these are characters with burst damage, characters with CC, characters that you want to bubble dance. When do you bubble? When do you not bubble? How much do you greed your bubble? Obviously, little doofy things like tracking are not worth paying attention to. I've actually had students even as high as Diamond who needed to work on their tracking, at least the deliberation with their tracking. Alt fire is the obvious. I mean, that's a big one, right? Especially if you're playing versus hard counters, and so you're playing the chain lightning perk because your bubble's getting exploded. Alt fire through lightning at range, pretty useful perk for pressure and ult charge. And then finally, the last one is the obvious one as well. It's the primal rage and knowing your short jumps, knowing your long jumps. I mean, that's just something in general to practice, knowing your juggle timing. Those are all things that you can practice, and then there's lots of drills that you can do for those, but I find that really the best drill for practicing Winston mechanics especially, and this is the case with most characters, but I think especially with Winston, is just to play the game with intentionality. Like, just go in working on those mechanics, go in working on specifically your alt fire accuracy, go in specifically with your bubble placement, go in specifically to land on targets. I think there's different circumstances where those are good to drill, and sometimes those are not good to drill. For example, if I'm planning on playing my alt fire, and I end up playing versus a lot of ranged characters that are blowing my head off, and maybe I should pivot what I'm working on to more positioning focus. But if I'm playing versus characters or a match where there aren't a lot of ranged DPS characters, so then that's a great, all of a sudden, okay, now maybe I should drill my alt fire here. Maybe I should drill on landing on these targets instead in terms of mechanics. And so I think having a little bit of flexibility with what you want to work on, depending on what you're practicing, is great. But obviously, once you get into the game, you should pretty much just focus on a couple of things and not keep it overly complicated. The one exception to that rule would be Primal Rage in terms of just practicing in-game. There are a couple of workshop codes. I just don't know them off the top of my head. A Google search will probably help you to find them. Obvious reason why that's the case is just because you don't have as much exposure to repetition with your ults. Same thing with Dragon Blade, same thing with Tracer's Pulse Bomb. It's generally better to kind of drill those things on their own, and then still drill them in game. So like when you get in game, put it at the forefront when you have Primal Rage to be accurate. But if you don't get the repetitions outside of the game, you will improve. You just won't improve as much because it's not relevant every single fight. So, okay, I'll also obviously give you my assessment of where I think you are at mechanically relative to your rank. And to be honest with you, most players don't really have an egregious weakness mechanically. They just would benefit from practicing everything. So just keep that in mind. Sleep looks good. Understanding the weak parts of my game is a weakness. I don't really understand what I need to focus on to improve my play. Okay, it might just be a little bit of everything. It might be a little bit of a couple of specific things. We'll have to take a look here. So let's get this replay code pulled up here. As you said, this is a longer one that goes into overtime, so that's perfect. So we got a nice long replay code. Now, obviously you're not always going to be able to play Winston on Watchpoint Gibraltar. That's like an optimal map, and I think the real question is why. So I challenge you to kind of answer that question. Why is Winston so good with high ground? I've done a lot of Winston coaching recently, and I think it's worth asking. You can pause the video here if you'd like and think about it, because if you say high ground, you're right, but the question is why is high ground useful? So what Winston really wants, and I think a lot of people misconstrue this, is that he doesn't have to dive the optimal targets all the time. In other words, if you look at the enemy composition, let's jump Ashe. That's the target because she doesn't have a crowd control. Then I can, maybe. But the most important thing with Winston is using your mobility to come in from an off angle. Off angles are useful in the same way with tanks as they are with DPS. You split the enemy's attention, you pull their attention away from the rest of your team. When you jump high ground here and harass Lucio Winston, you're pulling resources away from shooting down on cart. If you're able to stage and wrap around here and approach from here, you're allowed to approach from here, you're creating split attention, pulling resources away from the enemy team at different angles. So the most important thing is to use an off angle that allows you to get to the enemy backline, enemy frontline, whatever, safely, without you dying on that cooldown trade. And that's more important than target priority, because target priority with every character is a luxury. It's not a guaranteed right. So for you, you might be thinking, I'd love to jump Ashe. I'd love to get a Kiriko without teleport, but I'm probably going to be playing distraction, forcing CDs, taking less damage than I'm doing, and trying to create advantages for my team. That's something that applies to all matchups with Winston, right? You might not always have the high ground, so you just take whatever angle that you can, right? You may not always have direct access to backline without jumping a million meters deep into the backline without cover and exploding, so you just take what you can. There's a reason why, if you've watched a lot of high-level Winston, because that level of execution is so good, that a lot of it is just taking resource trades on angles, sometimes even tanks. So like right now, I don't hate this. You're a little bit late with the bubble, which means you get booped. This is what we talked about with mechanics, right? This boop here denies you about 80, 90 damage, and it costs you really nothing in terms of your HP, right? Getting booped there is exclusively good for the Lucio, right? Because it just allows them to break their bubble for free. Not the end of the world, but worth highlighting. Now you have a choice here. This is the moment of truth. Do you want to contest this off angle here, or do you want to contest this off angle here? Which one is a deeper angle, or which one provides you with a better matchup in terms of your target priority? This is the same thing that Reinhardt players have to ask when they take tank trades and they just forget that they can swing on an Ana who doesn't have a CD who's right in front of them, right? You needed to go here because if you skip steps, you might get shot a lot, right? But now you've cleared these guys. Now you have a wide open lane to jump a better target on a deeper angle, pulling attention even further away from your team, and there's no risk here. You don't need cover necessarily versus this particular matchup. Now, if this was a Bastion, maybe something changes, but you should, in about 2 seconds, jump this Ashe Lucio. Not just because it's Ashe Lucio, but because it's a deeper angle that's now available to you. Go. Yes. Again, the bubble timing, right? This is a good play from Lucio. Like, we want to give credit where credit's due, and you're probably not used to this, but this is something that you're going to have to adjust to. If the Lucio isn't good enough to boop you, I don't care. Respect him. Respect him. Get in the habit of treating this character with respect. That being said, really good jump. That being said, really good angle. That being said, terrible disengage. As soon as this happens, why are you standing in the middle of your bubble? I think the Reaper caught you by surprise, but that level of inaction mentally or focus mentally is just sloppy. This is absolutely a safe jump if you played your bubble correctly. If you bubbled it around the Lucio boot, but also just, played the edge and then disengaged. You screwed it up. The angle's good. Disengage mechanics, really bad. You can jump that if you'd like to. You need to make a decision. So you can jump this and force her out, maybe with a bubble, or you can take the free angle here to take this high ground and jump Reaper. Now, Reaper's not an optimal target, but with good bubble placement, good angle, it's not the end of the world. Your choice, but you need to do so decisively. Because any sort of poke pressure here, yeah, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We're able to get out. Don't pincer yourself with Winston if you can at all avoid it. Almost never good to pincer yourself. Always stay on the outside. Okay, take the free space. Good alt fire. And now we drop on backline. You don't need to jump this. This is a foolish jump because there is only burst damage available from the jump at the expense of your speed. You're too late. And at the expense of your disengage. You drop, you bubble, you zap, you disengage. Guaranteed 100%. Nothing they can do about it. I think you're thinking, oh, I can get away with that jump damage. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. In addition to that, as I said, it's also how quickly you get there. It just simply takes too long. By the time you get there, your team is already dead. In addition to that, because we're just throwing details at you, like a food fight here, you took way too long. You saw an opportunity to get a kill, I understand, but you don't quite secure it, and you're a little bit too slow in the disengage. Is it better to get the trade there, or is it better to preserve your life? I'll let you be the judge of that. To be honest, I think it could really go either way. So I guess I'm not really criticizing you for that after all, so... Okay. Off angle. I love to see it. Now, you could have forced point and jumped from behind. That probably would have been the optimal play, just because this would have been a deeper angle, which means it's really hard for... You'll also notice that the angles isn't just about their ability to focus you versus focusing your team, but you also notice, where's the Ashe supposed to coach gun here if you jump on her this way? Anything that coach guns you away is going to throw her deeper into towards your team. You kind of see what I'm saying? Something to consider. That being said, this is a nice angle. You're using high ground well. You get a nice deep jump, get a good bubble placement here. This is really, really difficult for the enemy team to deal with. Love to see it. You just needed to be faster to disengage. So once again, we get a nice bit of space here, maybe a little bit early in relation to your team. I think maybe that's the key thing here. So just don't force this too far. But the big thing here is that, like, okay, we've done our job. She's out. Play the bubble's perimeter. Don't play in the middle of your bubble, right? And then just jump significantly faster. We're losing so much HP. And to be honest with you, you absolutely should have died there. You are taking so much unnecessary damage. Unnecessary damage is essentially not the Kiriko kill earlier, where you got a kill for your hubris, you stayed late, and you got the kill, and you lived with 30 HP. That's whatever. That's a calculation, right? There's nothing of value that you did there after your first initial jump and bubble. The Ashe disengaged, you force CDs, okay, bail out, rinse and repeat. If you overstay your welcome, it's the same kind of mistake that Winston's that focus on alt fire versus hard sniper comps and get their heads blown off. You're expending pressure, but extremely inefficient pressure. So much so that your supports have to blow literally everything to keep you alive. You're a highly volatile tank that demands babying constantly to do anything and still doesn't make a good trade. This staging is way too open. This is not an off angle. This is too direct. And you're actually lucky that you got booped, because it actually puts you in a situation where, I know you took too much damage once again, but it puts you in a situation where you could actually shoot something. Nice use of your landing damage. That's a great use of it right there. We can greed further. That was a phenomenal nano. I say. Phenomenal nano. Alright. Sure. I mean, it's fine. You know, force her out. It's alright. Probably would have kept my attention on the Ashe a bit longer, so you can't... I'll turn up the audio just a little bit here because it is a little quiet, but you can absolutely hear the Ashe walking forward to vacate the space, to fill the space that you just vacated, and obviously like this in hindsight's pretty funny, right? If we ignore the Ashe though, focusing Kiriko and using your landing damage is probably pretty fine, because you're definitely going to have your primal. Let's check, when did you primal? Should you have primaled? Yeah, I think this primal's too soon. You've got 350 HP. There is really no significant burst here in your face, so you don't really need to primal this immediately, unless you're looking for a jump reset. So early primals are almost exclusively bad, with the exception of needing the jump reset to pursue and finish kills. It's like the one exception. The other thing to keep in mind, obviously, is when is an early primal versus when is not an early primal, and that is exclusively based off of the damage that you're looking at. Cassidy, you probably should early primal. You know, Zenyatta charging a right click, yeah. Hanzo, sure. Winston in your face, Lucy in your face, you're probably fine to greet another 100 HP. You need to finish that kill. I don't mind you going back to Reaper, but when you have a Lucio in a small room and he's half HP, and you have that perk, this is you're here, this is your problem. Don't go back. This is wasted time. You can go back and maybe secure this kill, but you could also just let this guy out of jail and go back in and clutch the fight, which he almost does. You see what I'm saying? This is your responsibility. Why? Because Lucy's more of a target priority than Reaper? Well, not necessarily. It's just because he was there. Just based off of convenience and triage. This is your #1 priority because you're freaking there. Don't waste gasoline. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So, taking a lot of damage after your jumps. That's the big thing here. You go to cycle, you do decent dives or maybe not so decent dives, but then you just fail to realize that, okay, I need to go, I've done my job, I need to disengage. That's the big thing so far. Okay? Bubble drop and bail. Bubble drop and bail. Bail. Right, even there, right? Like I know you're thinking, oh, I gotta help my. No, you can do nothing. You can do nothing. You are 318 HP. The cavalry is coming. The British are coming. Get the frick out of Dodge, right? It's almost the 4th of July. Act like it, right? So get out. Right? There's nothing to be gained here. You got your trade. You got your kill. You can do nothing to help your Genji. All you do is take an extra 150 damage, which means that you're not in a position to actually engage in stage right now. So example, right now, if you got out 2 seconds faster, well, then you're in a position to take high ground. You're in a position to take high ground. You're in a position to harass Ashe. You're in a position to harass Ashe. Then she's not going to dynamite and murder your backline, right? So this is kind of what we're looking at here, right? Where it's just your phasing isn't clean. It's just as important to know when to go in with Winston or to go out with Winston as it is to know when to go in. Because the faster you go out, knowing anything after this is going to be inefficient use of my resources, the faster you can go in. Case in point, you have bubble right now and you're not in a position, literally or metaphysically. You don't have the position, you don't have the HP. So this position here means that you're giving that Cassidy the opportunity to murder your backline. And we're still giving Ashe the opportunity to murder your backline, right? So I'm being tough on you here, but this is what I want from you. I want you to be clear between your cycles with don't take resources that aren't doing anything. Stage for your next dive, scout, listen, freaking use your alt fire if you need to, and find your next angle. This is fine in terms of immediate reinforcement. Like if you have bubble and there's a cast immediately in your team's face, yeah, sure. But given there are so many other opportunities here, if you've given yourself the time. I like the attention given to the Cassie right now, and I like the fact that you're actually taking a second and listening. You're going, oh, wait, Ashe is here, right? Normally not something that you want to do, but Ashe is unsupported. You're basically full HP, and she's not even looking at you, so this is fine. It's a little unfortunate, but at least it's the space creation that we needed, right? You almost had a really good cleanup to the end of this fight in terms of what you were trying to do, but the start was just so horrendously bad, there's no way you can come back from it. So you almost bailed yourself out there. Good try. Okay. Clean staging from an angle, not super obsessed with targets, and then when your stay is done, go next. So from here, where's your angle? We'll ignore the Moira in your face right now, but where's your angle? Where can you stage? What's free right now, So this is kind of unfortunate, right? But like even this isn't bad, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm shooting tank. Doesn't matter. He's right freaking there. You've got an angle on him. You've got cover. You're not exposed whatsoever to the enemy backline. So if you look at this here, there's really no reason to not shoot the Winston here. Shoot this fricker out, get him out, then stage for your next dive. Who's going to be your next dive? Spoiler alert, it's probably going to be Lucio. Why? Because this is the angle that you want. And he's right there. So you're going to take some time and fight Lucio and Cassidy. Now, you could look at this and be like, oh my gosh, Ashe is by herself. I'm going to dive for her there. The problem is that's not a good angle. It's a good target. She is isolated, but it's not a good angle. If this doesn't clarify, this is exactly, I guess, what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about angle versus target. For you to jump Ashe, who's by far a better target than Lucio, right? It would mean jumping straight into the open directly at a target. Even though she's unsupported, even though it's Ashe, even though in theory you might have your team support, it's probably not going to work out so well. You need to approach her an angle. When you approach from the side, you're going to go versus Lucio. You're going to go versus Cassidy. But because you're clearing space, setting your dive, staging from an off angle, and not just running it down main, this is probably the more useful thing to do. Good. Now this is better because you had the element of surprise. So obviously in hindsight here, oh wait, maybe this actually works. It's not near as free as you think though, you see what I'm saying? You want to guess what cleared out your backline here? Uh-oh. Now I'm not saying that they should have been cleared out by the Lucio or the Cassidy, but they were. One of those situations where you go for the right target, but oh dear, yeah, you're just cooked. This is why clearing space works and why fighting for angles matters. You go for the backline, but you failed to clear the squishies out of the angle, and that's kind of the problem. When you're looking for angles to stage from, you will find people to clear. That's what space creation is. Winston's job is not necessarily to clear backline. That's the end goal. But if you don't have a good angle to stage from, right, whether it's here or here, your backline is going to be gate kept by those exact same angles. Sure. Again, we can close the distance immediately. Who's close? Go for the Moira. She's an idiot. What was she thinking? I would go and get off the floor here. I'd go and take some space. Yep. See, this is difficult. They have to go backwards to deal with you. And if they don't go backwards to deal with you, you're just sitting, murking, dropping alt fire on them. This is fine. Okay. This is fine. He'll teleport. Oh no, he messed up. That's pretty funny. Now, do you want to take a guess if there was a good off angle to approach backline from? What should you have done here? So first off, perk-wise, I think this is probably fine. I mean, the Cassidy will break your bubble decently, but I think besides Cassidy, you should have your bubble up for a decent amount of time. So heal bubble is probably fine here. But should you have stayed here and controlled backline? Probably yes, frankly. Probably yes. Just look at the space that you could have controlled from here. And yes, the heal bubble is fairly useful, but worth considering. See, the problem I have with this here is that you can look at this and be like, oh, Cassidy. You see, I knew it. But unless you knew the Cassidy was here, I don't think this is the correct play. And I don't think that that was your first intention. You need to control the space here. Control the squishies here. If you're already here, control them here. You could definitely, yeah, I was going to say, just go find the Curie Lucio. Make sure this Primal doesn't get follow-up. Yeah, this was a mechanical screw-up from you. This right here, you get booped. I mean, to be honest with you, that was kind of a scam boop. Maybe you should have jumped this higher. This Lucio's been murking you, though. So this might just be a situation where you need to get a higher jump, right? Because if I look at the timing of this boop, I swear he did it too late. Yeah. Okay, you got scammed. All right, you got scammed. That being said, even a good Lucio will still boop you there. They'll just do it faster. That's really unfortunate. You were doing the right thing. I'm going to give you credit for that. No point going for Winston when there's another target directly in front of your face. Still winnable, though. Find the Lucio. I would prefer Lucio over Tracer, just a little bit more consistent. It's not, I mean, it's not that Tracer's a terrible target. You can, just you need to count her blinks, and if you don't have any information on that, that's always a bit risky. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. Okay, where's your angle? Where's your angle? Where's your angle? Not your target, where's your angle? So for here, it's probably going to be somewhere lurking around the right side, or like you can start here, and then from here, you can kind of stage from here to top and then kind of utilize your bubble zaps and harassment. But this is a difficult section, but you need to get off the floor here. So you're looking at targets, not angles. You ready for this? So here's a spicy one. You ready for this? If you're here, the best possible thing that you could do is walk forward or hold here and bubble zap. You already have a really crappy, but you do have an angle here with which you can harass and control the space versus Tracer Kiriko. You will bubble dance, and then you will jump out. This commitment here is not terrible, but you've used your disengage cooldown to pursue a target, placed yourself on an angle that's just as bad as where you just were, and then have opened yourself up to getting traded as a result. Does that make sense? There's really no advantage out of what you just did, is my point. It's Lucio. It's okay. It's not a matchup you're probably used to playing. Like he's a pretty difficult character. You're going to see a little bit more of him since the recent buffs. I don't think those buffs were massive, but they're just kind of bring visibility to the character, and I think people care a lot about that when they're picking a character. Okay, so main things here. Keep working on your angles rather than just chasing targets. That's something that's going to take a lot of practice to read. We'll continue to talk about it more here. Second thing to keep in mind is I want you to work on your post-dive, post-bubble cycle pressure. There's too many situations when you've gone for a resource trade, you've done your job, you've pressured force cooldowns, the bubble's expiring, your HP's starting to get chunked, and you continue to zap even though there's nothing that's in any way, shape, or form going to be threatened by your pressure. Has to stop. Even if you don't die, you basically force your supports to scrape the bottom of the barrel to keep you alive. I've seen you get double packed. I've seen you got defensively naded. I've seen you're on a focus on healing you when your other DPS were crit, and that is like a cardinal sin with Winston. Beyond that, mechanically, it's been okay. Alt Fire could always be better. Primal could always be better. bubble dancing and placement of your body on the bubble to deal with CC, including that Lucio boop, right, is definitely something that could be better. But those are things that can always be better. And honestly, to be honest, along with everything else. So, zap, zappity, zap, zap, zap. Bad bubble. Either bubble that later or you don't bubble that at all. Sooner or later, rather. So here, you hear Lucio, bubble the son of a gun right freaking now so you don't get booped. If you get booped out, you're 557 HP, please walk forward and bubble to where you can actually zap. This bubble is so conservative that you can't actually do anything with it. So this is, once again, mechanics. You lose the cooldown trade here. Now, let me be very clear. You don't need to back off here. You still have an active bubble. He does not hold this angle. This angle allows you to harass them from here and then drop into backline if they leave you be. You cannot back this off. I don't know why you're backing this off. You still have HP and bubble, and there's really nothing that you don't need. You're walking into more poke damage from here. See, this angle is more open. This angle is more contested. You don't have bubble here. You're taking an absurd amount of damage. Asking to get pocketed when you've taken 325 HP damage before the fight even starts, and you have an active Winston bubble in your backline's face. Of course your supports can't heal you right now. This character is hard, man. This character is so freaking hard. Everyone looks stupid playing this character at one point or another. Except for me. I make no mistakes. Especially with this character. This is an angle. Now, I don't love us landing on Winston, but to be honest with you, I like the angle a lot, right? This is going to be really uncomfortable. And I also like the fact that you're actually jumping for a position and not a target for once, right? So you can deal with this Cassidy and Idiari and point, but why jump onto them when you can jump to the side, distract them, scare them, and then drop on them with your bubble and a full jump cooldown, right? The only problem here is that the execution just isn't quite there. Case in point. Right here, do not freaking peek that Cassidy Idiari unless you're going to drop on them. And when you drop on them, bubble immediately. They're right there. So you have these, right? And then look at your HP. Gone with a win, right? So now you're like, okay, well, what do I do? Do I actually drop in these guys or not? There's more hesitation. Now, to be fair to you, you do actually drop, and you do get some nice zaps here. But you're obviously going to have to be a lot more, okay, I know. Bubble dance, so this is mechanics. You just need to play on the outside here. And then you're out. Now, to be fair to you, despite the horrendous execution here, you should feel really proud of the way that you staged this up. Look at this. So let's look at this from a third-person perspective. Cassidy Idiari pushing the angle here. You take the high ground directly above them. Now, why are you doing this here? Is it because it's Cassidy Idiari? Are they really succulent, juicy targets? Kind of, right? They're not bad, right? But the reason why this works so well is because this is a really good spot for you to set up a dive. If this could be Lucio, this could be Tracer on card, and this would still be the optimal play. If Cassidy Idiari like way over here, yeah, do it here. This is a great little off angle that you got. This position is good. So much of Overwatch is just finding good positions and where the fight is, and then just taking what's given there. So when you take this position there, watch the little blue circles. Winston gets distracted. Cassidy Idiari are freaking out. I mean, we saw what they did to your HP. You screwed that one up. But they're not even using the angle at all. That allows you Genji to pressure. Lucio goes back to peel. Winston goes back. He has no idea where his team is. There's Hinder. There's Outburst. Lucio's looking at you. Cassie's looking at you. Idiari's looking at you. Winston's getting no healing. Tracer's getting no support. And Cassidy and Idiari have done like a total of 300 damage combined in the last 9 seconds, right? That's great. That could have been so much better with better mechanical execution, not peeking, playing the edge of your bubble a little bit better. But that was excellent strategy. That was using the map well. That was using the angle first, then the target afterwards really well. And to be honest with you, mate, you should feel good about that. Well done. My mouse is dying. Okay, no, we're good. And like this hold here. Don't peek. There's no reason to peek, right? You're just waiting for your next bubble cycle. Now, where's your next position? I know you hear Cassidy underneath you, but you got to have object permanence. You got to have positional permanence. Actually, don't want object permanence, right? You know where the Cassidy is, so don't drop in the Cassidy. Find the position of the angle that you can approach the Cassidy from, right? Or the EDR, or wherever, right? That's going to be where. Take a second and think. I'd say it's probably going to be here and wrapping around this way, right? I mean, worst case scenario, I guess you could jump here and drop bubble here. I mean, it's not exactly a great angle, but it's better than what I hope you're not going to do. Okay. Yeah. Okay. all right. That's all right. It's not great, but at least we didn't do the worst thing. Don't peek this. They are too far away. They're not doing anything. Let them come into your angle or wrap around deeper. Don't peek this. Don't even dive it. Just don't. Yeah. That's you look at that and you're like, ah, frick, you know, I should. No, this is your leash. This is your leash. Your team is playing around this vicinity. If your Tracer's a jackass and wants to fight out here, that's her problem. Look at this jackass. Not even a single freaking off angle. She makes the same mistake that you've made too many times. Oh, look, it's an isolated castle. Shut the frick up. Where's your off angle, jackass, right? So for you here, this position is perfect, right? You end up feeling forced to make a dive because of your Tracer's mistake. That's honestly, I understand. I'm not going to flame you for that one too much. But you need to get out. You need to get out. And you do. But that's not your fault. Now, I wouldn't be putting too much attention here. Can you take a guess what I would want you to be doing here instead? I don't necessarily think this is a massive mistake because you're between bubble cycles anyway, but where do you think your attention should be going right now? Any guesses? That's right. In about 1 second, you need to be thinking about taking the off angle, right? So, obviously you're between bubble cycles. It's not like you can't do two things at once occasionally, but you kind of see what I'm saying? This probably would have been better served as a jump here and then a drop here to prevent and completely remove any chance of a disengage from this backline. Instead, we kind of get a jump and a bubble and damage, right? Congrats. That's probably the most childish noise I've ever made in a coaching session. Yeah, it's just not great, right? It's not great. The bubble could have been used sooner there to maybe to cut off, but like your angle just wasn't that good. And the reason your angle wasn't that good is because your attention was onto doing damage between bubble cycles, which is not always a bad thing if it's a Winston. Sure, I mean, not like you need bubble for that, right? You might as well, but you got to be really careful that it doesn't come at the cost of where's my next setup between dives. That is the #1 priority with Winston. Not finding free value between bubble cycles, but finding free staging, finding space, strategizing. This is like bullet chess, right? When you're between, is that what it's called? Speed chess? I don't know. I don't play chess anymore. You take a high ground, you do a bubble thing, you disengage, you think, okay, where do I want to go next? Where can I go where I'm not going to get my head blown off and set up for my next dive? It's not a one-step game, right? It's always thinking about your next move. Now, if you're playing bullet chess, could you be doing push-ups between your turns in bullet chess? Yeah, absolutely, but you should probably be looking at the board, okay? I really like your name and your skin combo. I just all of a sudden realized that. Like, you have way more aesthetic taste than I do. I don't think mine even classifies as aesthetic taste unless gray is a color. But yeah, this is actually kind of clever. It's nice to see something cool with Winston in terms of like cosmetics. Stop freaking taking damage. Because it's such a freaking hard character to find little builds around that, right? Zappity zap zap, zappity zap zap. Now this is you misreading where the fight's taking place, so I hope to goodness that you disengage. Now I know you're not going to. You're going to jump in, you're going to bubble, you're going to get blown up because you think you can get primal, and you're going to fail miserably. You're also probably going to get hindered and booped. Maybe both. I don't know. But yeah, this is just a misread with where the fight's taking place. This angle is not terrible. I mean, obviously you'd prefer this, but the reason this doesn't work is because your team just isn't fighting here. So if you're going to disengage here, let's take a quick second. Can you tell me where you should disengage to for your better angle, given where your team is fighting? This isn't so much about your backline, because sometimes your backline will be dealing like a wrecking ball and you're harassing backline. You just don't have a good off angle to where this fight's happening. It's going to be here, right? It's going to be freaking here. You know, play here, jump here, disengage, get healed, and then look for pressure here, look for pressure here. If they go after your angle and fight you like this Lucio Tracer come up here, yeah, freaking bubble and zap them, right? That's fine. You don't. If the flanks are contested, fight the flank. You're going to go in, aren't you? Oh, I'm so proud of you. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. You took too much damage before the fight started, but this is fine. You disengaged from the Cassidy, which, to be honest with you, is probably smart because you were not going to bubble dance that son of a gun at 420 HP. Has zero faith in you whatsoever. But this is fine. I mean, you look at this. Like, which Winston has a better engage here? Despite you having a horrendous start, it's kind of hard to say. Honestly, it might be you. So, yeah. I'll give credit where credit is due. You made the best of the situation. You acted quickly. Credit. And now you could just, pop your alt fire. And this is just going to be you misreading your primal. But to be honest with you, this fight is whatever. They blew 3 ults. I don't even want to know what your Brigitte did. And to be honest with you, whatever. They used 3, you used 2, and you guys were down 1, and yeah. No way. Couldn't be me. Yes. Angle good. If they come up here and fight you, you will have to fight them. Maybe even with bubble. That's the nature of high-level Winston play. There are very few free angles, right? But if you have to use a bubble to fight for a high ground, then you're free to do so. This is questionable given the fact that you had taken the high ground for free because you started the 1v1 with 50 more HP. So why the frick are you bubbling off the Winston? We could be bubbling off his entire backline and then primaling them, right? This is kind of what I'm talking about, right? Where you see high-level Winstons bubble off Winston, but the reason that they bubble off Winston is not because they prefer the taste of Winston flesh, right? They're not self-cannibalistic. Okay, at least not most pro players. Okay, the reason that they do this is because that they don't have a safe staging ground to go for backline. You do, and you have primal. There is no reason to bubble off Winston when there is a nice succulent chicken tender directly in front of you. Lucio's chicken tender sized. You see, you didn't necessarily get anything out of that except force him out. You know, you could have done the exact same amount of damage to him by zoning off his backline and then actually set up your next primal rage. It's fine, great staging, horrible execution once you actually won the angle. You won the 1v1 versus the Winston, so take the space it gives you and then murder his backline. That's how high-level Overwatch works. You clear high grounds, you clear angles, you're fighting with Tracers and Lucios and Winstons, you win the 1v1s, and then you get to dine on their backline, right? Doesn't always happen in Diamond, but that's often how it is. This is really good. Controlling from an off angle. You can do all sorts of things from this off angle. If they don't contest you, you murder their backline. If they do contest you, you murder their backline. Sure. I would have preferred a better angle here. Can you guess where you could have approached from? Because they're ignoring you. Let's be very clear. There's nobody on you right now. So you could absolutely drop from here and just zap from here. Is it dangerous? I don't give a frick. You got Primal Rage. Who cares? There's nowhere to go from here. You kind of see what I'm saying? This is the difference between stuffing a choke and, oh my gosh, this high ground's just completely free. Fine, I'll drop in your backline and murder your family, right? I don't mind this. This is fine, but you could have done that one significantly better. I do like you preserving your HP, though. That's really good. That's the best we've seen in a long time. Even preserving your HP leading into Primal is good, right? Because now you let them come in, and then you can jump them from behind and Primal them. I don't know what your backline is dying to, so I have no explanation for that. Oh, I guess your Tracer's dead? But this is not bad. Like, you were like, okay, there's no point staying, right? You know, even with Primal, like, this guy's got freaking hinder and roll and whatever. That's fine. I can understand not wanting to Primal that. Because you're definitely going to be able to get an opportunity here. Looks like we're going to approach from the left. That's fine. Left is sneaky, right? Like, you don't take as much damage. You might have a more immediate angle. You can't go to high ground, right? Which is kind of sucky, but you also don't get your face shoved in by a lawnmower, so this is okay. Don't chase that. Not on an angle. Take what's available right now. You ready for a spicy one? Don't jump the Casting Mercy. Jump the Lucio Tracer. Why? Because they're freaking there. I don't hate this, but they're freaking there. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine what you could have done with a landing, a big, juicy, succulent jump on this Lucio Tracer and cart with bubble? Zap, 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 and then you want to go from there? This is you pursuing targets over angle. I would only avoid this if this was Roadhog Bastion. I'm honestly not even sure if that's the case. I would still avoid them. It's there. Kill the Bastion. Kill the Casty. Kill the Lucio. Kill the Tracer. If you wanted to deal with this, then you should have come out this angle, jumped high ground, and landed on his mother, right? That's the way to go. I guess in this case, his mother is Mercy. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is another situation where you lose faith in your team because you're like, oh, I'm not going to kill this guy. At the very least, knock him off of high ground. Why? Because he's there, right? It's opportunity cost to run away from him. I know you're like, oh, I'm missing a lot of HP, so that's a very tricky line that you have to balance, but you're not exactly safe running away from him either because he's just going to shoot you anyway. If you're going to get your face shoved in by Budget Clint Eastwood, at least be looking at the guy, you know? That's kind of unfortunate. Okay, so let's check our time here. Let's watch one more fight here. So all of this is setting up angles for targets instead of targets and then, you know, oh, maybe I'll get an off angle. Don't just dive. This is like, that's like the silver gold thing where they're like, oh, you know, should stop just shooting tank in front of me. Good. Like, for example, Winston jumps you here, fight the Winston. Lucio comes up here, fight the Lucio. You want to stage for backline? Drop on backline. This isn't good enough for you? Jump from here to the other angle, which allows you for better access to backline. You get what I'm saying? It's all angles. Always was. Please don't peek this. Stop peeking this. Stop peeking this. This is not mechanics. This is just brain dead. Stop, 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 stop. You are now in a significantly worse position to trade with this Winston. Or even, you know, ironically, jump the Cassidy in a few seconds. Or drop the Cassidy, sorry. Stop. You're not winning that HP trade. You don't get bonus points for headshotting with alt fire. That would be hilarious, though. And see, now you back away, right? Frick, we needed this angle. We needed this position. We needed... Look how much space we're losing. Stop it. Stop it. You're more resources than a 60-year-old hypochondriac. Holy crap. Stop! I say stop as if there's anything wrong with this. This is fine. Clear the Tracer. Force the pocket, force the fan, alt fire, disengage. Yeah, this is fine. It's funny though because it's too late, right? You lost your opportunistic dive, and now you're just kind of stuck on cart, right? This is why taking bad resource trades is a risk, because yeah, you disengaged it, but your Tracer Genji didn't. Is that their fault or your fault? I mean, you be the judge. You put them in a hole. They should have disengaged. They didn't. They die. But you're the one that lost in that space in the first place. Drop? Yes. Yes, son of a gun. It doesn't even matter what you shoot now. I mean, I'm going to prefer you to shoot Lucy or Kaz, right? But this is perfect. Drop, bubble, beautiful. I like the early bubble because Lucy is freaking looking at you. You lost the script. You completely lost the script. Okay. Just shoot what's here and don't lose the script. That's kind of it. I think you lost the script. You're also caught in the middle of your bubble. So we get fanned, hindered, fanned. We actually die almost before our bubble dies. That's incredible. Really nice staging, though. So I'm beating you over the head, but honestly, really nice staging. If you just only bubble danced a little bit better. I mean, you don't really have an option to do anything fancy here. At least you cut off the beat there, and that works out nicely. You can't really do anything but anchor point. I understand. It's difficult. Find a target and kill a target. Find a target. Yeah, find a target. Tongue twisters. It's not even a tongue twister. I'm just completely incompetent. Good, good, good. I mean, this is just nonsense. We're completely getting lost in the sauce. We're completely getting lost in the sauce. You're changing targets. This is crazy. Yeah, you change targets too much. You let the panic get to you, and you didn't actually finish off a kill. So, all that nonsense aside, mechanics are fine. They can always be better. Not a major problem. Letting the next session know we're running a little bit over. Big thing for you must be, number one, staging on angles and letting the targets present themselves, coming from high ground, coming from the side, taking bubble trades that are more effective as your bubble is dying, playing the borders of your bubbles. So those are the three things I want you to work on. So staging on angles, disengaging, taking effective resource trades, and then bubbling, dancing the bubble as the most important mechanic. From there, you can work on everything else. Alt fire. When should I alt fire? When should I not fire? When should I take less damage, right? You can work on effective landing on targets effectively. Short jumps versus long jumps. Those are all little things you can work on. But the big three before that are much more important. I want you to work on them one at a time. In other words, one per game. It doesn't have to be one per week. Like, you don't have to drill it until you're perfect at it. That's never going to happen. But you can train one thing at a time, and then, okay, this game I'm going to work on this, or this game I'm going to work on that, and then, okay, I'm bored of practicing this, let's try this. But you need to go in deliberately every game with a Winston training goal. Not, I'm going to be perfect at this, but I'm going to practice this. Especially the staging for off angles one, like knowing how to position with Winston and thinking more strategically about how you're approaching things. That is going to take hundreds of hours of practice. I'm not even telling you exactly all the tiny little details. Why? Because it overwhelm you. You just need to go in and practice thinking about staging and being sneaky and closing the distance and being efficient with your jump and high grounds and flanks and cover and being more deliberate instead of just herder, I'm going to jump squishy. You do that, you've opened up a world of Winston that's going to reward you for the amount of effort and thought, experience, and replay review that you do on yourself. Let me know if you have any questions with that. If there are any particular spots or positions that you have a really difficult time with, please let me know. Obviously, the bubble dancing one's a little bit more intuitive. I think in addition to that, being a little bit more quick to disengage when you're losing the resource trade, I think that one is also a little bit easier to understand as well. But if there's any other details that weren't clear, let me know. Keep up the good work. You did good. Can always do it a little bit better. And if anything I said here didn't make sense, just let me know. Thanks. Cheers, mate.